21.2 Age by Ulla Charles. Throughout our lives, everyone will experience aging, whether it be slow or fast. The age of our body can dramatically affect our performance in sport. There are sports that are better performed by younger athletes, such as dance, gymnastics, and team sports such as football. And there are sports which are better for older athletes, such as swimming, cycling, squash, and golf. The way that we exercise is heavily dependent on our age. For example, the older we are, the more recovery time we may need than someone who is younger. As we get older, our degenerative systems such as muscular, skeletal, neural, and cardiovascular systems start to decline due to many different factors. As we get older, we may suffer from health issues, with people between the age of 50 to 85 costing the NHS £7,000 a year each. However, life expectancy has risen as people in the UK are expecting to live to around 79 to 82 in 2020 compared to 77 in 2000. This may be due to increased scientific and medical knowledge. Ageing is a term that is used when mentioning the process of getting older. Throughout our lives, it is inevitable that we will age. Our age heavily impacts our health physically and mentally. When we age, there are two aspects that we can look at. We can look at our biological age and our chronological age. Our chronological age, according to Verywell Health, is the actual amount of time that a person has been alive. This refers to the amount of years that we have lived, and it only takes this into account. We also have a biological age, which is based on our physical health and how old our body acts. Biological aging looks at the damage to our cells and tissues, as well as physiological development factors, including chronological age, genetics, lifestyle, nutrition, disease, and other conditions. Our skeletal system is a very important part of our body, as it allows us to have structure and help us stay upright, as well as being very important for movement and also protecting us, especially our major organs such as our heart and lungs. As we get older, our skeletal system goes through a number of changes. From around the age of 30, our bones start to diminish and we start to lose bone density. This means that our bones will become more fragile and more likely to break. This can be due to many reasons, such as hormonal changes which happen in our body. To keep our bones strong, we need to lay new osteoblasts onto our bone to allow them to grow, heal, or maintain density and structure. However, as we grow older, there is a lower rate of production of osteoblasts. This may be because when we exercise, we stimulate the production of osteoblasts. However, as people get older, especially when they are over the age of 65, people are less likely to exercise as often. This means that they are less likely to produce as many osteoblasts, which means that when their bones become fragile and start to lose density, there won't be as many osteoblasts to re-strengthen their bones. This means that as we get older, we are more likely to suffer from breaks in our bones, as our bones will become more fragile and breakable. A way that this can be stopped is by doing weight-bearing exercise, or if older, and this isn't people who do low intensity bodyweight exercises such as squats, as this will allow the stimulation of osteoblasts, which can lay onto our bones and increase bone density, which means we will have stronger bones and are less likely to suffer from breakages. Also, the joints in our skeleton will become stiffer, and they will be less flexible as there is less synovial fluid or lubrication, which makes it harder for our joints to move. As we have cartilage at the end of our bones, which is used as a shock absorber, as well as reducing the friction between our bones. However, as we age and we have used our bones a lot, the cartilage starts to wear down, and this can cause pain and discomfort, especially when we exercise. People who play high-intensity and weight-bearing sports such as rugby are at a greater risk of having damage like this happen to their skeleton. As we age, we may also experience changes in our flexibility as our joint movement becomes stiffer, and this is due to there being less lubricating fluid inside of our joints, and our ligaments may shorten, making our joints stiffer and less range of motion at a joint. This explains why most gymnasts become professional around the age of 16. According to Gymnast HQ, as flexibility is very important in the gymnastic, which means that aging can shorten their career. Our cardiovascular system is a very important part in how our body functions. Our cardiovascular system is used to transport oxygenated blood to our working muscles and get rid of any byproducts. It is important that our cardiovascular system is strong, as it allows us to create energy at our working muscles, which therefore allows our muscles to contract. As we get older, our cardiovascular system, specifically our heart, will struggle. This is because of multiple reasons, such as build-up in our arteries. As we get older, there becomes a larger build-up of fatty deposits in our arteries, specifically our pulmonary artery, which is important to supply our heart with blood. If our heart doesn't get enough blood, then it won't be able to transport as much blood around our body, and it won't be able to beat as easily. This then means that we won't be able to get enough oxygenated blood around our body and carbon dioxide out, which means it will take more effort for contractions to happen. This can also lead to health issues such as angina and possibly heart attacks if not treated. Our maximum heart rate is 220 minus our age. This means that as we get older, our heart doesn't have the ability to beat as fast. This means that their heart isn't always able to meet the demands that are put on the body, especially in high-intensity anaerobic situations, such as a 400-metre race, as they won't be able to go as fast, as they aren't able to meet the demand of oxygen, as their heart isn't able to beat fast enough. On our heart, we have cardiac muscle, which is used to help our heart pump, so that we can move blood in and out of the heart. However, as we get older, we experience atrophy, which is where we lose muscle, which could be due to a loss of hormone support. This means that our resting heart rate may increase, as in one beat they aren't able to move as much blood as needed. This means that their stroke volume decreases, which means that it's harder to get enough oxygen to our working muscles, and means it takes longer for us to make a sufficient amount of energy. This can be problematic for long distance events, as they may not be able to make enough energy aerobically, which would make them need to slow down, as it would become harder to contract our muscles. Another job our heart does is circulate blood around our body from our heart. As we get older, it then becomes harder for our organs and tissues to get the adequate supply of freshly oxygenated blood. This can happen as when we get older, our baroreceptors, which monitor and maintain our blood pressure, become less sensitive. This means that during exercise, the older the person is, the less time they can exercise aerobically, as they may experience dizziness. It will then take longer for them to recover, as it takes longer for them to get freshly oxygenated blood back to their muscles. According to Live Science, the endocrine system is a series of glands that produce and secrete hormones that the body uses for a wide range of functions. Some of the main hormones that we have are estrogen, testosterone, and HGH. As we age, our hormone levels change, and this can have an effect on how our body works. Our endocrine system function declines mainly due to hormone receptors becoming less sensitive with age. At the age of around 45, women's level of estrogen decreases. When this happens, they are more likely to develop osteoporosis, which is where their bones become more brittle and are therefore more likely to break. This is because estrogen projects bone strength. However, if there is less estrogen, which can happen with age, then our bone density would then decrease. This means that high-impact sports such as basketball aren't very good for people who have lower estrogen levels, and they may be better doing non-weight-bearing exercises such as swimming. Testosterone is a hormone that is mainly found in men. It has characteristics such as increase on bone mass and muscle. According to WeBMD, men tend to experience a drop in testosterone at around the age of 30. When there is less testosterone, bone and muscle mass will decrease. This means that they are more likely to suffer from injuries as bone breakages or muscle strains, as their muscles are having to work a lot harder. According to Sports Insider, weightlifters peak at around 25, as after this they may find it harder to gain muscle mass. Another hormone that we have in our body is HGH, which is a growth hormone, and it stimulates growth and cell production in humans, and is very important for development. As we age, HGH secretion declines with aging, which typically happens in we lose muscle mass and we gain more fat. This means that it becomes harder to overcome resistance, and due to the increase of weight, they require more energy to do so, which means that they aren't able to work as hard for as long. This may affect people who participate in sports such as long distance events, as they have to overcome resistance and use lots of energy. The main function of our muscular system is movement, and is what allows us to create movement as well as stabilise our joints and maintain posture, and the stronger and bigger our muscles are, the easier that it is for us to overcome a resistance. In all sports we use our muscles, some for endurance and some from strength or both. At around the age of 30, many people experience sarcopenia, which according to the Oxford Dictionary is the loss of skeletal mass and strength as a result of ageing. This happens as we lose muscle fibres and decline in hormones such as testosterone. This can lead to the loss of muscle mass, also known as atrophy. For people who don't exercise, they will lose around 3 to 5% of their muscle mass every decade after the age of 30. This will still happen even with people over the age of 30, even if they do exercise, however the decline will be slower. MSN says that the loss of muscle mass, strength and endurance affected us negatively. This is because the more muscle mass that we have, the easier it is to overcome resistance and also be able to contract our muscles repeated for a period of time. This means that when we lose muscle mass, this will decline, which makes it harder to lift as heavy weights or work for as long. Also, we get older due to loss of muscle fibres. As we get older, we lose more muscle fibres and change in our hormone levels. It also becomes harder for us to gain muscle, especially after the age of 30. A footballer's peak age is around their mid-20s. This is because they need muscular strength and endurance, and at this age they are at their best levels. However, after the age of 30 they will start to lose muscle mass, and it will become harder for them to gain it. This could lead to them overexerting their muscles and becoming injured more easily, as they may not be able to work for as long or create as much power, which may mean that they aren't able to play a full 90 plus minutes. As you can see in the picture above, between the ages of 40 to 70, we lose around 24% of our muscle mass. It is recommended by the NHS that there are guidelines for older adults to do moderate exercise daily, mainly using body weight or light weights, to reduce the risk of energy, as this will allow us to maintain strength and slow the loss of muscle mass down. Our respiratory system job is to breathe and exchange carbon dioxide for oxygen. It is very important that we have oxygen in our body, as it is used to make energy when we are working aerobically, so we can contract our muscles. It is also important that we get rid of carbon dioxide, as it takes up space in our body for oxygen, as carbon dioxide isn't needed and is a byproduct. When we breathe, the air goes in and out of our lungs. One of the muscles that controls this is the intercostal muscles. However, as we get older, we can suffer from atrophy, which is where we lose muscle mass. This can happen if we don't exercise the intercostal muscles enough. This means that their tidal volume will decrease, as their lungs aren't strong enough to take in enough oxygen. This then means that they will have a higher breathing rate, as it will take them more breaths to reach the demand of oxygen for their body. According to Healthline, your lungs lose strength and become more vulnerable to disease, and that there is reduced elasticity in our lung tissue and decreased muscle mass of the diaphragm. This means as we get older, we are more likely to get lung disease, which can cause issues such as asthma. This can be problematic when doing sport, as when we exercise, we will breathe quicker through our mouth, which will make cold and dry air travel to our lungs, which can irritate our airways, as it may make the muscle in our airways tighten, which can make it very hard to breathe in air, meaning that we aren't able to transport as much oxygen into our blood quick enough, which can make it harder for us to contract our muscles, as it will take longer for us to create energy using oxygen. However, on average, according to Healthline, the first signs of lung disease happen at around 40. This shows that for long distance events such as a marathon, people who are slightly older can still excel in it. For example, Mo Farah got the British marathon record of half marathon record of 59 minutes and 32 seconds at the age of 32, and is still competing at the age of 37. The marathon world record was set by a 34-year-old. There are other factors of our body that affect us as we age. For example, our metabolic system begins to slow down as we get older, and this can have a big effect on our body. It means that we are more likely to gain weight in the form of fat. This means that as we get heavier, we need to use more energy to do the same task. For example, running. This means that we won't be able to run for as long as we are using more energy and it will run out faster. Most male marathon runners are around 63 kilograms and have a fat percentage of around 10%, as they don't want to use an unnecessary amount of energy to move themselves. Overall, we can see that age has a negative effect on our health, which can then affect our sporting ability, whether it be our flexibility or our strength. Different sports are more suited for older or younger players, and this is due to the rate that the different body systems age. However, we can see that overall, over the age of 30, our body's sporting capability starts to decline.